Microphone.
Am I on? It's on. It's up. I'd like to call the City of Sweet Home Library Board meeting to order at 4:30. I ask you this every time. Do we have to take roll call?
I can. Oh, I don't think the mic's on.
Show that they are. Lights are on. They work when I check. Eva's is probably working. The
There
other
we go.
ones, so
They're on.
only
There we go.
your two are working right now. Well, this reboots.
No, mine's working.
Mine's working.
Yay.
Okay, we're back.
Okay, roll call. Committee member Castaneda,
Here.
committee member Corley,
Here.
committee member Wise,
Here.
vice chair Hicks is absent, and chair Journey.
Present.
Thank you.
So our first order of business is to review and approve the minutes of the January 9th library board meeting.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes from January 9th, 2025. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we'll go to approval of the. Yeah, my button's up. I can hear myself.
Yep, you're on. I pushed it on purpose.
So, meeting minutes of January 13th, 2025. Review and acceptance of the meeting minutes.
Did you want to vote on the?
Yes,
March
would any,
minutes?
yes, yes, we need to vote on the March minutes.
Okay,
Yes.
I move their approval.
Okay, I have a motion to approve and a
I'll second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you very much. And now we can move on to the library director's report for March 2025.
Okay, for collection updates, we've received, I believe, another 10 boxes of books from the Library of Congress and Senator Wyden's office. So that brings from them 20 book boxes plus the 10 that we got when the mayor visited. And I have no idea if more are coming. We'll take them. We've moved the Western fiction and our large print mysteries to slightly different locations, and we're going to make what we call the horseshoe area into a little tween space. It's for about 8 to 12-year-olds. We have a lot of them coming in, which is awesome, and they've been asking for a space of their own. Well, we don't really have that much space. This is at least about 10 square feet. That's a little bit more private, and it'll also help with some of our YA areas, and in our kids areas, the shelves are getting super full. So this will help move some of the books from those areas into this new tween space.
Can you tell us a little bit about what's in these boxes from the library?
Oh, from the Library of Congress, books, lots and lots of books. The first batch, 10 boxes we got from last month, actually February-ish, was mostly kids' books. This last 10 boxes has been teen and little tween and adult books. They're books that are sent by the publisher to the Library of Congress. They do their magic and make some records and approve them and all of that, and then they give them out to libraries. Or they are books that were given to senators and congresspeople, and then their offices give them to the Library of Congress, and then they're given out to libraries. It's stuff probably say 95% of it is stuff that's been published in the last 2 to 3 years. Some of it is a little bit older, which obviously came from a congressional person's office. Some of them you can tell which person they came from because it's a lot of biographies from people that are very famous in a state, not necessarily nationwide. There's like one box that was like that. And we've pulled which ones we think people here would find interesting. But it's a very wide mix of stuff and it's very new. And I think probably 75 to 80% of it is stuff we don't have. The stuff that we do have, we're either going to give out as some of the summer reading prizes, and some of it is going to the little free libraries that we have around town.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing that there's that big a percentage of books that we don't have and that's actually an asset that we wouldn't have gotten any other way.
And one of the books that came from when the mayor picked out books, one of our regular patrons that's in a couple times a week said that it was the best book that she had read in the last 2 to 3 years. And it was an author that she had never heard of. It was one that we hadn't heard of. It was a smaller publisher with a smaller run and said it was one of the best. So it's good quality stuff we're getting.
Yeah. Nice.
So the tween section will have fiction, graphic novels, and nonfiction. And the few tweens that we've told about it are just literally jumping up and down and excited.
And that seems to be a trend with other libraries is to have a tween section now.
Albany added a section in January.
And
Do you have, oh, sorry, Mr. Corley. I apologize. Do you have any needs for the tween, are there any needs for the tween space?
So,
feeding or anything like
I
that
do
needed?
have on our Amazon wish list, I did put a few things that the tweens specifically were asking for. They want bean bags because they love the bean bags that the teens have, and then something colorful like rug on the floor. But in my estimate, please nothing shaggy. And that's usually what comes up when you type in like a teen rug is like shaggy rugs, which would be a pain to clean. But I do have some stuff on the Amazon wish list.
Do you have a rug?
There are some rugs on there.
All right, I don't want to get
And-
distracted.
And what exactly is a tween?
A tween, for our definition, is the ages 8 to 12.
Thank you.
And that's typically what the publishers also use as the definitions. A few publishers do 9 to 13. A few do 7 to 11, but 8 to 12 is the age we're shooting for. Building issues, it's not so much an issue as a very positive thing. So we received a $10,000 competitive grant from the American Library Association to replace our automatic door opener. It's our side door. The one we have right now works 75% of the time. And the guys from Public Works replace the battery fairly frequently. But if it's not opened basically about 100 times a day, the battery doesn't recharge, which would be great if we had very high traffic through that door, but that door is not used as much. But a new door, we can purchase one now. Depending on costs, we might be able to take some of this money and buy some other adaptive things for within the building. I don't know what the final cost is going to be because we'll get some money after the 1st of May. And then at that point, we can get some quotes.
So are you familiar with, I just learned about this year with where instead of having a pad, that you just swipe your hand? You're familiar with that kind of opening?
I've seen that type, and I've also seen ones that are on ground level that you can hit with like your walker or your chair wheel or your foot or whatever, in addition to one that's at waist level. The swiping ones, I don't think that's within even this budget, but it'll be something that we could see. And the funding there shouldn't be a problem with the funding being pulled back because it originally is from a private donation. In building, If you haven't been in this week, we do have a new traveling museum display from the Museum of Natural and Cultural History, learning about Native innovation. That we set that up on Monday. We've had great response so far. Have one of the elementary schools is going to come take a look at it. And then the junior high, one of the history classes will be by to take a look at it. It will be there for a month, but in order to have that in our lobby, we had to move some things around. So we found some interesting places to put things that still keep us within ADA compliance. We had a party for the Dogman movie that was out on DVD last week, and we had over 45 kids and adults come to watch it, which was way too much for the space, but it all worked out.
Could say, where did they all go?
So our TV is in the teen room, so most of the kids were in there, and then like the food and snacks and all that, and the adults were mostly out in the rest of the building. Our Lego Creator Club, we're averaging 18 kids a week. And that's at basically the capacity of what we have for tables. We have tons and tons of Legos because we got some donations, but it's more our tables that we're having issues with. And then there's one minifig that like 5 different kids want each week. And it's not one we can find another one of. Out of like the 100 and 200 minifigs we have, there's one that's like a lizard man that everyone wants. A seed library, we've given out thousands of packets of seeds already this year. Still have more to give out. We've still getting more donations in from community members. So that's been great this year as well.
Are you still going to accept some?
Yep.
Okay.
If it will, year round, we'll accept seeds. If we don't have the seed library out at that time, then we'll just keep them for the next year. And then once we're out of seeds, then we'll to collect vegetables and all of that to give out. Eva had a question. Oh, okay. Nothing new on the new building. I think I'm right now focusing more on the operating levy and the election in May, and then we can focus again, probably look at more stuff for the building after that.
So when will information be coming out about the operating levy on the ballot?
So the ballot, they get mailed out the last week of April. And then there's May 20th is the election.
About 3 weeks before,
Yeah.
something like that.
And then that'll be something we talk about in new business as well. We have more volunteers right now, and have 2 more that we need to set up a time for them to come and start volunteering. So our numbers are getting back up with the number of hours of volunteers. On May 7th, we're going to have a library open house from 5 to 7 p.m., which is a Wednesday. Just giving everyone's ballots should have arrived by at that point, and then it'll just give people a chance to come in and check us out. I'd like to invite all the library board members and our council rep to come at that time and answer questions then as well. If you need any more information about that, just let me know. The community market starts the first weekend of May. The library is the main point person for that. And Joy is working on that again. I think we already have about 15 applications for people that want to be there for the full year. We are kind of suggesting that first weekend, the weather's probably not going to be great because it never is in May. But there is a vendor fair, I can't remember the theme, happening at the high school, and we are kind of trying to point some people towards that.
How many I'm sorry. How many vendors can fit out in that area?
I think last year our peak day we had say 35 or 38.
Wow, that's okay.
But we average around 20. They were really happy with Sportsman's Holiday Weekend last year, and they were saddened by how little traffic they got during the Jamboree. So they were expecting a little more, but we explained that most of the Jamboree participants aren't up before noon.
True.
We'll not speculate why. So any other questions? Is there anything else in this report that I'm not telling you guys that you'd like to know?
I'd be curious about grants. How do we learn about RFPs and who writes the proposal?
So if it's an actual RFP, then where we're requesting proposals, that'll be through the city website. And then there's a whole back end that I don't know that much about yet. For grants themselves, it's just I have them on several listservs, and then several search engines and Librarians Talk and all that. I'm just trying to find what grants are out there. There's some that we know about. There's some that even the institutes themselves are finding out that they are more of a pass-through grant system, which means they get the money from somewhere else and then they give out grants themselves. A lot of those are disappearing right now because the original source was most likely the federal government or others that, it's several layers down sometimes. There are a lot that are disappearing. There was an article on the front page of the Albany Democrat Herald today. I have a copy of it if anyone wants to read it. It doesn't have subscription. About a grant that the Albany Public Library was getting. It's a national grant for being one of the top 10 best summer reading programs in the country. They were supposed to receive their check in June. It's not happening now. They've pulled that back, even though it was supposed to be guaranteed. So there's stuff like that happening. I'm trying to focus more on some of the private foundations or smaller grants right now and see what's out there. But a lot of it is disappearing currently.
Thank you.
Any other questions or anything on the director's report? Statistics were busy. So you can see our volunteer hours are slowly going up, and the bulk of our volunteer hours typically do come during the summer.
And that was during spring break time too. I don't know how that affects attendance at the library.
Honestly, last week spring break was a little bit lower for people coming into the building and others. And also when that first sunny day hits in a week, a lot of people are like, we got to go out and be in the sun right now and then come back to the library on a different day. Once it gets to summer, it's more like, okay, I need to get away from the sun now and go inside. Our courier, we did a fair amount last month of books coming and going to other libraries in the system, which is good. And our door count was up, and I think it'll obviously be up again this month, especially with our museum display going on. Oh, and the end of the month we had the Green Peter and Foster History Jamboree over at the Evangelical Church. That was the church. I didn't count that as a program. We were just participating with them, but they had a very good turnout, probably equal to what they had when they did the Jamboree for Detroit Lake. They were very excited. They got a lot of stories from people. And then I think there's a few people that they're going to follow up with because they were doing an ongoing dissertation and paper and website and lots of things. It's a big system now that they've gotten it going. But they were very happy, and Bob, who ran it, was absolutely in love with Tailor Made Cafe. He would tell everybody about it. Their biscuits and gravy apparently are better than anything he can find in Idaho. I don't eat biscuits and gravy, so I have no idea.
Drive on over.
He has family in the Bend and Detroit area, so he actually comes through fairly regularly. Probably now he'll come through more just for biscuits and gravy. Any questions on statistics? Oh, so I'm just going to keep talking. So our proposed budget for the 25-26 fiscal year I've talked with city management about and our finance director about this already. The next step is I want you guys to look at it and approve or not. I don't know if we need to take a vote today. Then it would go to the budget committee at the end of this month, and then it would go to city council and have to get approved at every step along the way. It's fairly straightforward. It does look like we have a ton of money. We don't actually have 2.3 million to spend. Love it if we actually had that much, but the bulk of that is the basically our savings account, which has the donations that could go towards a new building, land, whatever. This just having it there gives us access to it if something does come up that we could purchase. But I'm not actually going to spend that unless it is on one of those things. And then the other big change for the year is our grant line. But for the current fiscal year, we were estimated about 50,000. I'm not estimating anywhere close to that for next year, just because I don't know that a lot of these will happen. They might not. I don't know. So we're just being very conservative. The 13 should be guaranteed, but with some of the changes with the IMLS, which is the Institute of Museum and Library Services that's federally funded, they are also trying to take back some money from the state agencies that they've given it to, and some of that could affect our 13,000 that we're expecting. But nobody knows. And that's like, those checks wouldn't come until next summer. So it's a long ways away to know what's going to happen with that. So I'll let you digest.
And the increases in the wages is all commensurate with some metric.
Yeah, it's through the union contracts, COLAs, and all of that.
Okay.
And it's not a huge increase, but just
Right,
enough.
that's-
You're not adding positions or
Yeah,
anything.
no.
Right. But just like you say, a COLA and for the people who are there, etc.
I have a question about the property tax passed. How come 5,000 last year, 10,000 this year? Is that because of new valuations on?
That one is Matt would answer that unless Cecily knows.
I do not. Yeah, our finance director would have to answer that one.
Okay, just idle curiosity.
But
Nobody needs to.
I think he
excited.
bases it on the property data for the county and seeing how much is delinquent and not delinquent.
And just looking at the actuals for 23-24, it looks like we had significantly underestimated comparing to that. So I'm guessing he's just bumping that up based on, I'm guessing what gets collected after the fact outside of the normal tax year.
Thank you. And what is our levy request?
So our levy, we're not asking for any increase. It'll just be the same amount. I'm not sure the exact rate, but it'll be the same amount that we've currently have. We're not asking for an increase.
So if I'm asked.
Yeah, I can
It
get
should
them.
be an easy sell, right?
It's
Yeah.
$1.17 per $1,000 of valuation.
Thank you.
And that is funding we need to stay open. So any other budget questions? Do I need to vote on?
Yes, if we could have a vote to forward this budget to the budget committee as approved by the board, that would be helpful.
I move that we forward this on.
Is there a second?
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded to approve the library fund budget as presented in page 9 of today's packet. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Aye.
Okay, I don't have any old business. I don't know if anybody else does. Hearing no old business. So for new business, I've added 2 pages here of just library talking points. These are in bold are some of the standard, what does the library do? What do they offer? What do you do with the money? These are just kind of standard stuff that I've seen with a lot of other campaigns across the country. And then underneath that, I've put some talking points. So if people ask questions like, what do libraries do? You know, beyond we're vital for promoting literacy, supporting education, fostering a love of learning, and just some of the stuff that we actually do in Sweet Home. A lot about library cards, 1,000 books before kindergarten. One stat that I do like, even though it's not directly a library program, but it is something we promote, is in Oregon, and especially in Lynn County, Sweet Home has one of the highest adoption rates for the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. I think we're at 73% for the city of Sweet Home. And that's 73% of the kids 5 and under 5 are enrolled. Across Lynn County, it's at just below 50%. I want to say 47, 48%. Statewide, they're at about the same as Lynn County. So we're doing great with that. We tell, all the parents that come to story times, any of the summer events, we tell them about that. We also have them sign up for 1,000 books before kindergarten. So there's more going on there of getting books. It's known and that getting books into the household helps with literacy. Getting kids and parents reading helps with literacy. Even if it is the same board book 100 times, it's helping. The 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten program, they do a sheet for every 100 books that they read, and then they bring it back and get a prize. Had one kid that brought 2 sheets back and they actually wrote out the titles, and I have to say 198 of the books was the same title. It was a Winnie the Pooh book. And I'm not sure why, but the parent wrote it out every single one of those times rather than just saying same. So that repetition really can help kids learn words, learn stories, and it also gives that bonding time. So that's one reason why.
So the reason we're doing so well with that is because you're selling it.
We're trying to.
Yeah, way to go.
So other talking points I have here, job creation, attracting tourists, fostering skilled workforce. So weekly, if not daily, we're helping people with resumes, helping them format them, start them, understand them. We're helping with job applications. We have several people that have had people come back and say, I'm sorry, I don't visit as much anymore at the library. I'm not here as often, but I have a job now. You helped me with, find a job, fill out the application. And now I'm sad I'm not here, but I have a job that I'm doing during the day. So we'd love, stories like that.
Cool.
In the summer, we get a lot more people, especially around Sportsman and Jamboree. They're not necessarily people that are taxpayers here, but they do. One of the first places they stop in town is the library to find out what's going on in town, to find out, the flavor of the town. They come to the library. For new residents, we are typically the second place they stop. They come over to City Hall and get their water turned on, and then they come right to the library. It's amazing because we have to verify where people live in order to confirm that they're a taxpayer. So we can do that either through a piece of mail that they bring us, or we call over to City Hall. And many times when we've called Lacey, she's like, "Oh, I just talked to them. They were just here." So that's very good. For technology, we're offering free access to computers, internet, and digital resources. People connect through one of our 6 desktop computers. Have far more people that connect via Wi-Fi, whether that's on their phone or they bring in a laptop. And this is really all ages. People that do not have internet access at home for a variety of different reasons, they will come into the library and be able to talk to family or to do whatever they need to do. And, a couple of our regulars, they only have Wi-Fi on their phone. They don't actually have phone service. So the only way they can connect with anyone is to come in and connect to our Wi-Fi and then do whatever they need to do. One other story I have in here, I can't remember which stories at the end, is we do have, these are all stories you guys can share, obviously, but have people come in, especially around the holidays, regulars that we see every week, every day, they bring their family with them. Like they might be older and they'll bring in, children or grandchildren, and say, I want you guys to know that, I'm not totally alone here in Sweet Home. I do have people I see every week. I come and see the library every week. And I've had, some of the grandkids that are, my age say, thank you. It's good to know that if she, for some reason, didn't show up for a week, you wouldn't notice and you would probably reach out to somebody and say, hey, we need to do a check. Just that little bit of comfort and peace of mind is great. And it's also great meeting families from all over. And then hearing stories about the person, the grandparent or parent that they came in with. And there's some good stories out there. But really, the library is the community's living room. It's one of the few places in the world that you can exist without any expectation of having to pay for something. You can just come in and hang out. You can read a book if you need to. You can connect on the internet, and you don't have to pay for that service. If you want to take something out of the building, then you might have to pay for a library card if you don't live within the city. But just being able to be in a warm space during the winter or a cool space during the summer, and you don't have to buy a coffee. Not that I have anything against coffee, but you don't have to pay to exist there. And there are a lot of people that, they might have their own place, but they can't necessarily afford to keep it nice and toasty or nice and cool. And so they need a place to go. Kids that aren't in school need a place to go during the summer or after school. So that's why we need to exist and have funding. And I'm happy to tell more stories. I've got 20 years worth of stories.
Yeah, these comments are very helpful.
I have a quick question. My
Yeah.
sister asked me today at lunch. They just moved into the Holly area, and she says, "How much is a library card?" I said, "I don't know. I live in the city."
So
what?
right now, our fee for an out-of-city library card is $35.
Okay.
That covers everyone living in that household.
Okay.
And if they have a kid within the school district and live outside of city limits, they can get a library card. The kid can get a library card for no cost. They can only check out 3 items at that point, but that's 3 more items that they could before.
Yeah.
And that really covers Holly, has been the area that is most excited about that, the kids especially, if they get to go to the library now and they get to check out their 3 items. And
That's
it's
because the school does a good job promoting it.
And it's also hilarious watching the siblings fight about which 3 each of them is going to check out. Like they might be reading the same series, but what 3 is the brother going to check out, which 3 is the sister going to check out, and all that.
Is that an annual fee or just one time?
It's an annual fee.
Mhm.
And we also accept payments on that. If you don't have the $35 at the time, just have a minimum $5. And it'll stay at 3 items until you pay off that $35, but you have the whole year to pay it if you need to. And I've seen a lot more people need to use that and be happy to pay the $35, especially knowing that they can do it in spurts.
Would they have? No, never mind. You answered that before.
Any other questions or comments?
And if there's anything more I can provide for stories or questions that you might get, and if you do get other questions, you can always have the person come in and talk to me, and I will talk their ear off.
So we need to have on our calendar May 7th from 5 to 7 p.m. Okay.
That last hour, we are officially open, but I
right.
just want to hit people right after work.
Right.
And even right now, we do have people that come in, tell us they're not a library user, but they wanted to see where their tax dollars are going. And I've never had anyone storm out and say, I can't believe this is happening. They've all been very happy with what they see. They might not use the service, but they're happy with what they see.
Anything else for this meeting for today? Then I will adjourn the meeting at 5:07. Thank you all for being here. It's wonderful to see everybody. Yes.